All right. Well, we did some mocking. I'm gonna show you the exact opposite, like the mockasite, because I thought I was gonna be angry about this video, and I'll tell you why. It's all in the title. Neil deGrasse Tyson's thoughts on transgenderism in a conversation with Ben Shapiro. Like, if there is a combination of factors that is guaranteed to make me angry, I thought it would be this. I have often referred to Neil deGrasse Tyson as Diet Carl Sagan. In this particular instance, though, this is fun to watch because Ben does not get what he expected.
It seems like the left is militating against the advent of science. One of those areas is the area of transgenderism. The argument that is typically made by gender theorists is that gender is entirely separate from sex. You've seen the argument made that it makes no difference on average if men are stronger than women are.
Hey, Dr. Awesome.
If we were to allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological women. And this seems to me absolutely ascientific, that if we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should be based in data, which suggests that mammals are in fact binary in terms of their sex, unless you have intersex birth defects typically, or genetic defects.
I'm happy to opine on this. This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender. Otherwise, why do you even give a shit? what someone identifies with? We live in a free country.
Unexpected.
And with consenting adults and people free expression of who and what they are.
On an adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach
That's what
children.
I'm saying. And so there's the matrix of what you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all.
This is exactly why I wanted to share this, because I watched Vosh do this on stream a couple days ago or yesterday, and literally I like clenched up, and Vosh was like, "This is going to suck. Oh my god!" And then this happened, and you were like, "Oh my god!" Not only is he beating Shapiro from a scientific perspective, but from a human perspective, and making him look like such an idiot. I saw this the other day. It was a great conversation. Yeah, right? Only great because Shabubble gets spanked. Loves talking about individual freedoms, unless you're queer. Yeah, exactly.
Are they requiring that you behave that way? Okay, this is for their own freedoms, because we live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports? It's unresolved. And I've followed that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage. So I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are. And so you compete based on your hormonal. This is thought I had. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to land.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be, you'd have to.
The best part about that line, Shapiro's always like, what about the women athletes, and we must protect them? And then immediately he's like, yeah, fuck women. Fuck the WNBA. No one cares, no one cares, no one cares.
You'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
I guess the area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, 'cause I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right now, children are being taught about the quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory-based idea.
No, wait, hold on. People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
That's a social a social point, not a scientific point.
It's
meaning we express ourselves
hold on.
Based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum, whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined. But it is a real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people identify how they want to identify.
So
except for Ben.
So the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case. But people don't seem to want to say that, although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this. I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist. But let me not say even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society, if we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study.
I fucking love this. Just to look at the comments real quick. You mean classing sports by ability and not gender? What a concept. Totally, right? And we've all seen the whether it's a TV show or whatever about like the big girl who winds up wanting to wrestle and all of the girls groups are too small and so they let her play on the boys team and there's a big uproar and like, oh no, what if this makes the boys turn into women or whatever, and in the end she becomes the cornerstone of an incredibly powerful team and yeah, go team. Like, cool, we liked that story. Maybe Ben Shapiro didn't like that story because he was like, oh my god, what if their biological genitals inform each other of sexual progress. But yeah, I just think, and especially when it comes to sports, I think the answer is simple. You have different leagues, much like you do with when you're looking at just gender specific. Like, so for example, men have the NBA, but there are a number of basketball franchises that are not in the NBA that are for people who have different, literally different physiological traits. Or skill levels or whatever. And that's okay. Like I say, physiological traits. We used to have a team here called the Calgary 88s, and the rule in that league was, I think it was like you could not be more than, I think it was 6'5" or something like that. Like, and it was intended as a minor league kind of game for people that just were never going to be the 7'2" super monster. And I think that's cool. I think that's totally cool. You don't want to say what I want to say. Classic Ben Shapiro bullshit straw man. Oh yes, that's how. And what I love about this interview and what I was not expecting about this interview was Neil Degrasse Tyson so effectively going, oh no, I see what you're saying, and here's why you're wrong in every possible level, and it makes my heart warm. Your brain, your heart, and body can all be different genders and all at the same time. See, and so here's a thing that I'm more than happy to admit that I don't understand. The trans perspective, and I don't mean that like I don't understand those goddamn people. I mean literally, like I've never felt that way. I can empathize and I can look at the people in my life who are trans, of which there are a few, and just say I probably don't know their bodies better than they do, their minds better than they do, their hearts better than they do. I'm probably not able to tell them what they feel. So maybe I just fucking shouldn't, right? And I don't need to experience it or understand it on that level in order to just be kind. trans rights are human rights because trans people are people. Trans women are women. Trans men are men. I don't even know why that's a question mark unless you're Ben Shapiro going, but are they really? I mean, here's the thing about shut up, Ben. Just shut up. Ben Shapiro doesn't care either. All he cares about is getting paid to say things that people who pay him want him to say. He says whatever the right pays him to, and I don't believe a whiff. He gives a shit about what he says, nor believes in it, unless it pays him. I absolutely agree, right? He is the consummate grifter. More so than Bitcoin grifter we just were laughing at from the Freedom phone. No different than any television. It's weird. That's all I got. It's I can't relate, but I can care. And I think that's probably good. All right, let's go back to this.
If you want to say it's only sociological, then it's the purview of the social sciences. I don't care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say, it's not biological, it's just your this, it's real and it's there.
Well,
because it's real because it manifests.
But it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question. Meaning that, for example, there's a woman.
If you listen really carefully, you can hear his little bumhole get tighter and tighter.
Over at Brown University, she came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment.
Oh no, Ma! I caught the trans. Fuck off.
Good question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? And Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust. I'm interpreting here. I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
Well, isn't that...
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that...
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes. I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry, which I think you need ultimately. But yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides
is, what is your motivation?
Bam.
Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
then make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
Well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out?
I'm saying if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
Also, I just want to point out that Ben seems to be real big on the science, but do you think that Ben supports the idea of funding scientific research into gender studies? Oh no! See, the thing about that is not, this isn't science. It's sociology. Sociology is bullshit, and therefore I don't have to pay attention to it because I just want to see the science, which is my way of stacking the deck against you. Fuck you, Ben.
But now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
No, I'm arguing on we need a way to shield, we need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
So
I'll give you.
I agree. I think that's what the Constitution is for, is to guard rights from.
But we're always fighting people who want rights are always fighting others who are saying they don't get the rights from the Constitution. This is a daily challenge on the progressive left. It is a daily challenge, right? Here's an example. I forgot how I ended up getting this phone call. It was some magazine that serves the gay community. And they want, I remember why, because they wanted my opinion on, they wanted my opinion about whether being gay was biological or mental.
Right, there's that new study that came out, this vast study.
Or psychological.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And I said, I don't care which it is. Find out what it is, fine. But the answer to that question should have no consequence on legislations or laws. Because, for example, suppose it said it's purely biological, okay? Then you say, oh, that explains it. Suppose it says it's purely psychological. What are you going to do now? You say, well, now you're going to go to the reorientation camps or whatever those are called, where they realign you because they say it's psychological rather than biological. All of a sudden, people start behaving in ways in society that want to constrict the freedom of expression of who and what people are. And that is a danger. So maybe there needs to be a line in the sand. Let science do what it does, but politicians keep us free. Yet there's so many politicians that are doing the opposite of that.
So why aren't you a libertarian? I mean,
scares me.
I'm a libertarian. Come over here. Just okay. The line is right here. Just join me over here.
Oh, that was a fine attempt, Ben Shapiro, at making it so like you're not completely just having just been completely slapped around by fucking Neil Degrasse Tyson in the realm of science, which Neil Degrasse Tyson knows some things about. Amazing to me how just effective that was. And I feel like no matter what, like Shapiro's base are not watching this and going, oh, maybe I need to question my previous assertions. Shapiro certainly wasn't moved. He was moved only as far as like, shit, this is embarrassing, but we'll get through it. But it's stunning to me that it was so easy for an eloquent speaker with a scientific background to just shut him the fuck down. And Shapiro didn't talk over. He melted. He melted hard. If it was me in that room and I was like, actually, Ben, I think, and Ben went, okay, here's the thing. And he would just talk over me. But he was scared. He was scared. I'm not saying like, oh no, Neil Degrasse Tyson's going to beat him up. I mean, he was scared intellectually and embarrassed because it did not go the way he thought it was going to go. Banger Bry, I think we need to stop using gender as a description of biological sex. I agree with NDT when he says base leagues on hormone levels. So I don't know. Hormone levels may not be the thing. I think it's funny that the Olympics brought in the hormone metrics for the current Olympics, and there are two African runners who are female who are not allowed to compete because their bodies naturally produce too much testosterone. And I don't mean funny like, haha, isn't that, fuck those. But funny like, wow. So maybe what we're saying is we don't understand any of the science, and when we try to make simplistic decisions about it and base our theories on science and go, oh yeah, we're protecting women's sports, bullshitter. We're not doing it right. We're not there yet. And really, it doesn't fucking matter. If a trans woman wants to compete as a woman, if you can prove that some skeevy dude is like, ha, I'm gonna fool people, I'm gonna wear me a dress, I'm gonna shave my legs like Klinger did, and they're gonna make me in the Olympics so I can get a gold medal, and he's just doing it to be an asshole, fine, that guy's an asshole and deserves to not be allowed into the Olympics. But if you have a trans woman who's living a trans woman's life and who wants to be an athlete and is not like, like I've spent 45 years being a power lifter and now I'm a lady. It's clear where the line in the sand is, or clear. It's clear where the line in the sand is, and we can fucking figure it out. Even Lil Rod agrees. That's right. My youngest child is watching on the Facebooks, and so his comments don't appear there on the chat thing. I should really eventually figure out where in space and time things are, but that's not the part of my brain that works. The science won't be on Shabubbe's side when more research is done. It can't be, because he does the thing that everybody does, and that is conflating a concept of biological sex and a concept of gender, and we don't even understand biological sex. It is not XY. I am not a biologist, and I am not an expert on any of these things, so I'm like, please don't take my word for it. But the biology is complicated. There are many things in our genes that affect sexual growth, that affect sexual hormone levels, that all sorts of shit. And just to say, oh, like X and Y or X and X is wrong and foolish. Love NDT at this moment. Never thought I would. Right? Like, he was such a lackluster pass of the torch from Carl Sagan, who I absolutely love, and who is alleged to even have been a marijuana activist. Sagan was amazing and not perfect. No one's perfect, but amazing in so many ways as a science educator. And Neil Degrasse Tyson is really good, but he's overstepped a few times. So when I saw this video title, I was like, oh no. No. But I had to share it because it was so fucking good.
First off, I want to say thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Thank you to my patrons that support me on Patreon. I am a little streamer, and these people are all really awesome for supporting me. Thank you to I Am Canadian. Special huge thanks go to my one prophet, Shithead Dave Anderson. And of course, my final tier of supporters is the Gods. This tier is the most expensive and likely to never have any members, but Patreon really told me I should have one, so it's true, I guess. There are no gods. I try to put up stuff at least once a week, and I live stream every Saturday at noon Mountain Time on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, like an old man. Again, thanks for watching, and have a kick-ass day.